Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today's episode, we are recording away from the book barn.
Road trip. We're not even in Kansas anymore.
No, we're not.
This is what we do, Gina.
And we are excited that our friend Gina has invited us to her home. So thank you, Gina.
Yes.
You're welcome. I'm so glad you girls are here. Lanie only got to eat one taco for lunch, and I'm really sorry.
It was one good taco.
We thought that this would be the perfect opportunity for a candid conversation about a book that Gina had recommended for us to read. So I'm Lasha.
And I'm Lanie.
And I'm Gina.
And let's talk books. So Gina, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So John and I have been married for 31 years. We have 4 daughters, Morgan, Maddie, Brooke, and Blake. They range in age from 17 to 29. Morgan, Maddie, and Brooke are all 3 married, and we have 5 grandchildren.
Nice. Big family.
It is a big family, and we love a growing family.
Yeah.
What sparked your interest in your field?
Oh gosh, I remember being in the 1st grade and being asked what I wanted to be when I grew up. And without a doubt, of course, I said, I want to be married, I want to have babies, and I want to be a teacher. And that just never changed.
So if you could give your 18-year-old self some advice, what would you say?
Gosh, I would definitely say to slow down and just pay attention to the present and soak it in. Especially looking back at when my girls were little. I remember thinking, I need to keep the house clean. I need to get the laundry done. I have to get the supper on, do the dishes. And yes, I played with them, but I still wish I just would have let some of that go.
Yeah.
That is such good advice for these young mothers.
It is.
Yeah. And it's so hard to know that or really feel that because you are so focused on the future. It isn't until you become closer to our age that you look back and go, how in the world did that go so fast?
I know.
Okay, we're going to switch it up.
Let's do it.
So do you watch shows one episode at a time, or are you a binge watcher?
I don't watch shows by myself. If I watch something, it's with John, and we are total binge watchers.
Yeah, I think we all are.
I think so.
When it's not football season.
Would you describe yourself as an introvert or an extrovert?
Definitely introvert.
Really?
Absolutely.
So why is that?
I don't know. I've been like that my entire life. Of course, around people I know really well and feel comfortable around and have grown up with. Like you two were in my wedding.
Yeah. It's a different story.
It's a different story. Right.
We were having this conversation on the way here and
You guys just answered almost
same
identically.
thing. That's exactly what I said. I said, I'm an introvert. I am not comfortable around people unless it's people I know. Yes. I get it. I get it.
And I don't like attention on me. If I'm in the spotlight, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, please. And my heart rate increases.
Man, for being a coach's wife, that's...
Yeah, I try to hide out.
So are you a night out kind of girl, or do you like to stay in?
Oh, stay in.
Yeah. That's kind of a given when you're an introvert.
Yes.
I do believe. Okay. I've got one for you. Okay. Do you kill bugs in your house or do you release them outside?
I kill bugs, and John sees a spider, and he's like, Gina, Gina.
Oh my gosh, she's a killer too.
Yeah, once in a while I'll let him go, but not very often.
Do you have a favorite author?
Ooh, I do. My favorite children's book author is Patricia Polacco. Love her.
We did do a Littles episode with Patricia Polacco.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Our back to school episode.
Yeah, she's the best. And then Francine Rivers.
So where is your favorite place to read?
My favorite place to read, if it's in the wintertime, it's in my chair with a blanket in front of the fireplace.
It's got to be cozy.
Yes. If it is spring, summer, or fall, I love to be out on the patio with a blanket sometimes if it's cold enough and hot drink in hand and the birds singing. It's awesome out there.
That sounds amazing. So what book will we be discussing today?
We're going to be discussing A Lineage of Grace by Francine Rivers.
Nice. And before we get into the book, I do have a quote from one of our friends, Stacy.
Okay.
After she read this book, she said, "Dang, who knew the Bible was so spicy? Woo-wee." And she also said to tell you hello.
Aw. Tell her I said hi.
So I really did love the book. It was long. It took me a while to get from cover to cover, but it was good.
I loved it.
I'm glad, because when I recommended it, you don't know if it's going to be everyone's cup of tea or not. But I absolutely loved it. It makes the characters from the Bible or the people in the Bible come to life more for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what the book reminded me of? A long time ago, I gave you a Christmas gift, a book, Two from Galilee.
I still have it, and I love it.
That book really reminds me of this one.
Mm-hmm. It does. I loved it.
And do you know who that is by?
Marjorie Holmes.
We can look it up. Give you the information on that in our show notes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's shorter.
Much shorter, yes.
And I like to reread that one at Christmas time because it really gets me in the Christmas spirit. My copy was my granny's, and it actually has my granny's name in it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so that makes it even more special for me.
So do you have a favorite the women?
Of the women. Which one?
Ruth.
She's precious. Yeah. Absolutely precious. Yeah.
I loved Ruth.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Lasha?
Well, I loved Ruth's story.
Okay.
Who wouldn't love Ruth's story?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, Gina, you read this in a book club setting. Is that correct?
Right. We took one story. We had 2 weeks. Then we met back and we discussed it. And then we started the second story. Did you guys meet weekly with your book club?
No. We
read the whole book through
in 1 month.
In 1 month.
Oh, gosh.
And talked about it. It was a very short meeting. And that's what I said, that is not really the setting to discuss this book.
Right.
Like, you needed more time and more depth. And so we just want to cover little bits of it today and give people an overall feel for it. And then, if it's something that interests you, then give it a go, because the book is excellent.
It is wonderful.
I agree.
All of your books from your book club Christian based, or is it a little bit of everything?
They actually are all Christian based. We had read one previously to this that was by Jenny Allen. I think it's called Find Your People, possibly, but it's talking about getting your friend group, meeting by the fire pits and, being there for each other. It's a really good one.
We read a little bit of everything in our book club.
Okay.
We do. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
So this was probably a little bit out of our typical.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We read a lot of fiction, although we've got some nonfiction books tucked in there too. But
our goal is to read all genres, even self-help. We want everything.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're
at. That's good. Do you guys find it easier to sit down and read fiction or nonfiction? Because I've noticed a huge difference in me and how long it takes me to read a book.
So I tend to listen to nonfiction in audio. Mm-hmm. Whereas fiction, I like the book.
Right.
So I don't know.
And the only book that I have ever done on audio yet is this book, but I also read along.
Okay.
Because I wanted to hear them pronounce the names.
Yes.
And I feel like sometimes I get hung up on that when I am reading along and I have a name that I can't pronounce in my head. It distracts me from actually the story. And I thought, all these biblical names, I just really need to hear that. But I do find that especially a suspenseful fiction.
Right.
Those are page turners.
Right.
And you do just want to keep going. You keep going.
Do. I can fly through the fiction just so fast. The nonfiction, especially if I'm reading for information and to actually learn something, it takes me a while to process it all, I think.
Yeah. But you have to be more focused on it. I think a story, sometimes that's just easier to keep your attention to, because you're being entertained.
I love this book, and I love these two girls that I am talking to. So we decided to be a little creative with this episode. We're trying something new. I sure hope you love it. Enjoy. So this book has 5 stories of unlikely women who changed eternity. And the first woman we will talk about is Tamar, and she is a woman of hope.
Tamar is a woman that, when I was reading this story, I kept thinking to myself, there's no way that I would be able to walk her path. Her father received a really big bride price for her, and so he forced her to go against her will. So she had no choice but to join Judah's family as Er's wife. immediately God struck him dead. In that day, they married the next brother in line. So then she married Onan.
I don't know about you, but when Onan died as well,
Yes.
Lanie was like, go God.
I was cheering.
I know. She did something very brave when she disguised herself as a harlot on the side of the road. God totally redeemed the story.
I will tell you, after reading the story, I went to my Bible because I thought, some of this can't be true.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all there.
It's there, isn't it?
It is.
So Rahab is our second story, and Rahab was a woman of faith.
Rahab was actually Jesus' great-grandmother. Basically given over to the king when she was just a young girl. Her family also worshipped idols. She, however, did not. She was watching out the window one day and recognized two Israelites that came as spies. And she wanted to help them and to protect them because she feared God. She got them to come up into her home. Once they did, she said, I have to hide you. Because she saved their lives, they promised her that they would save her and her family when they came to attack the city of Jericho.
So our third woman is Ruth. I love Ruth.
Ruth is precious.
She is. She is a woman of love.
Ladies, whoever's listening, if you ever need to know how you're supposed to treat your mother-in-law, Ruth is the ultimate example. She loved Naomi with all of her heart. Naomi lost her husband, and then she lost her two sons. They decided to leave Moab and go back to their homeland, which was Bethlehem. Ruth knew that she was going to have to provide for Naomi.
The fields, the perimeter of the fields, they did not use that for themselves. They left it for those that were poor and that were needy. And so Ruth was able to go and get food for her and her mother-in-law. And I love that.
Although there were two fields that she went to first, one of them threw a rock at her, but they wouldn't let her glean in those areas. And so once she got to Boaz's land, then they allowed her to do it. They were even singing praise and worship songs, and she loved that, and she sang along with them. So then Ruth and Boaz end up
Together.
They do end up together.
They did.
It was such a sweet story.
It was a very sweet story because Boaz was older, like 20,
A lot older.
Yes, like 20 to 30 years older than she was. And he was not an attractive man. He was wonderful, like character, and a very godly man.
And she was attracted to him for that reason.
For that reason. And of course, she was absolutely beautiful, and he fell in love with her. But was restraining himself because of his age and because he didn't think, that of course he would ever have a chance with her. And he did. And they had not just one son, but many sons. And their first son was Obed.
So our next story is about Bathsheba, and she is a woman who received unlimited grace.
The only things that I had ever really heard about David were, David and Goliath. David was a man after God's own heart. We've
Psalms,
heard that.
all of it. Yes, I agree.
David was a wild man.
Yeah.
I know, and it made me disappointed in him.
Me too. I was disappointed. I'm
Darn
like,
it.
David. He murdered. He
Had many wives.
many wives, and was very lustful, especially over Bathsheba, seeing her from a rooftop. Down below, she was bathing, and then he summons her to his bedchamber.
And she's married.
She is married. He has her husband sent to the front lines along with other men. Bathsheba's family completely disowns her. So she went the rest of her life with no family at all. Bathsheba's first child, it died. David knew in advance that it was going to happen.
Yes. Payment for his sin.
For his sin. And then she ended up having 3 sons with David, and she is the only one of David's wives who raised her sons to believe in God.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a sad story.
So the 5th woman is Mary, woman of obedience. I have said that I thought that this story is one that maybe the author took a few liberties with. What did you think of this story?
Francine Rivers is very clear as far as saying that, yes, she's telling these stories, through her eyes and filling in the gaps with how she would interpret it herself. Yeah. So,
sure.
Yeah. I mean,
she is a fictional writer. Mm-hmm. She creates characters that may not be mentioned in the actual Bible stories, but she's doing that so she can tell a complete story.
Right.
A whole picture.
Mary, here she is, 14 years old. It was around that time that the angel of the Lord came to her and told her that she was going to be carrying the Christ child. 14 years old. You guys, we were jumping on trampolines when we were 14.
We totally were.
And here she is pledged to be married. And then there's Joseph. He was wrestling with what to do.
I have to say, he is my favorite. I named my son after him. Mm-hmm. And I just love that he always was there for her and for Jesus.
They had to follow the law of Caesar and go to their homeland of Bethlehem to pay taxes. And then that's where baby Jesus was born in the manger, as it was in the Bible.
I made a little side note on my notes that the Lord spoke to Mary once, but spoke to Joseph 4 times. And Joseph each time did what he was asked to do.
Yeah, so not only did you have Mary, who's completely walking in obedience, but Joseph is doing the same. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and we know what comes next, the saddest part, but thank goodness for us, right?
Oh, my goodness.
The crucifixion.
He came here, and just his number one thing was to do the Father's will, and totally willing to take the cup and die on the cross for all humanity. It still just blows my mind.
We're human, so we can't understand.
No,
that's true.
I can't wrap my brain around that. I can't.
Gina, we have one last question. So tell me about the 3 most influential people in your life and how they've impacted you.
Okay. Number 1, without a doubt, would have to be Jesus. His influence, the way he walked the earth, the love that he gave, the way he treated people, the way he was so relational, and he was a friend to everyone. He is the plumb line for my life every single day. He is my gauge for everything. So he would be number one. Number two, it's going to go clear back to my childhood, 5th grade year, Miss Irma Johnson.
Oh, I loved her.
She's precious. Lanie and I both had her for our 5th grade teacher. That woman showed up to school every single day with a smile on her face. She was like oozing with joy. And I remember, like other teachers that were Christian women, and you knew that they were Christian women, but there was something about Mrs. Johnson. She made you feel like so important and so valued. And I remember thinking, when I'm a teacher someday, I want to make my kids feel the way she makes me feel.
I so love that.
And then number 3 would be Dr. Don Colbert. He is someone I started listening to his podcasts in 2021, and I started reading his books. He now is my doctor, and I go to him twice a year. I have learned so much from him. Like, I know why I do the things I do, but now I also know the science behind it.
And we want to thank you for inspiring us to start our book club.
Well, I think that this has been a great discussion. And so, are we done?
Well, I guess that's a yes.
There was a
wrap.
big pause there. So.
Gina, next time you have to come to the book barn.
I would love to.
Yes,
I would love to.
We thank you for listening.
And until next time, everyone, I'm Lasha.
I'm Lanie.
And I'm Gina.
And keep those bookmarks busy.